Hey Crosspoint, it is Thursday afternoon, and I just wanted to share with you a couple of things as we head into another weekend and as we prepare to worship together, which is really important. I'm not really here to reflect on all of the things happening in Kenosha right now. I definitely have a lot of thoughts about that and emotions about what's going on in Kenosha, and it is not my intention to share all of those with you right now. Suffice to say that I'm hurting for our state and for the city of Kenosha, for the family of Jacob Blake, for the massive rift between law enforcement and the African American community. And it's just such a complicated and devastating and hostile environment right now that, for me to try to speak into it just feels like a daunting task. So I'm not going to do that here today, all right? It's just not my goal. My goal right here today is to introduce to you what I think is going to be a very powerful and timely series that we are going to kick off on Sunday, and we're calling it The Bright Side. And I can't think of a better time to talk about the bright side. Now, you have heard the phrase, look on the bright side. Maybe someone has said to you before, hey, look on the bright side, when you were feeling down in the dumps, and it probably didn't make a lot of sense to you when they said that. Like, if I look on the bright side, that's not going to change anything that's happening over here in my life. It's not going to remove the pain or change my reality. And that's not what the point of this series is. Looking on the bright side is not about ignoring the injustice and the hostility and the pain that we are confronted with every single day in our world. All right, that's not what it's about at all. It's not about escaping our problems or ignoring the pain. Looking on the bright side is something that God actually tells us to do. It's something. It has to do with the way that we live. In fact, in the New Testament, very often heaven is described as sort of the bright side, and the earth, the world, this current world, this present world, is described as the dark side. This world is where things are fading and passing away. This world is full of evil powers and authorities and rulers. This world is equated with darkness and the flesh and the curse of death. And all of those things, where the heaven is equated with the bright side. That's where God's glory is, His radiance, that's where Jesus is sitting at the right hand of God. That's another figurative language to describe the brightness of God. When Jesus returns and brings the new heavens and the new earth here and redeems this creation, there will be no more night. It's going to be day all the time. It's going to be bright. The earth is going to be full of God's glory. Christ will be revealed as the true King of glory. And so the heaven is the bright side. And there's this verse in Colossians 3 that we're going to look at this weekend, and throughout the next few weeks, that says, set your mind on things above, not the things of earth. And I want to tell you, that doesn't mean that we should ignore the world around us. It doesn't mean we should ignore the things that go on day to day in our lives. That's not what it means at all. It doesn't mean we should live in the clouds and just think about what heaven's going to be like. That's not at all what it means. What that verse really means is that we need to think God's thoughts. We need to be thinking and consumed with thoughts of God and thoughts of who God has called us to be and how God has called us to live and who God is transforming us to be. And we need to be thinking about our final destination, because heaven is our true home. The earth is not our home. It's our temporary home. It's where we find ourselves today. But one day, and the New Testament says one day soon, we're going to realize our permanent home, and we're going to be there with Christ, face to face, where God's glory, pervades everything. And where God's kingdom reigns. Now, that's what we're talking about in this series. It's about how to change our minds, how to have the mind of Christ, how to think God's thoughts, and to be consumed with what God wants, so that we change our attitudes here, so that we change our mindset, so we change our behavior. And really the driving message of this whole series is, what controls your mind controls your life. So the things that you fill your mind with every day, those things that you read, those podcasts that you listen to, those shows you watch, those conversations you engage in, all of those things that you see in here every day, all the things you're filling your mind with, those things definitely influence the way you live, and the way you, not just the way you think, but the way you live, your attitude, your outlook on life, whether you're a cynic or whether you're an optimist. And so what we're going to talk about is how to fill your mind with the right things, with God's thoughts, and how radically that can change your life. And it will change your behaviors. It will change your will. It will change all of your relationships. It'll change everything about your life. So that's what we're going to focus on over the next 6 weeks. And you're going to see an image of, some of you will think it's weird. Some of you will love it. But there's an image that I found that really captures, I think, this whole idea. And it's an image of a kid holding up 2 donuts and looking through them. And he's got this just excited look on his face. And someone gave him 2 donuts. And kids are very often moody. They can change. They can go from happy to sad, from laughing to crying or to screaming in a matter of seconds. And even though kids are moody, here's one thing I love about that is it doesn't matter what's going on in a kid's life or how sad they are. If you give them 2 glazed donuts with sparkles on top, it's going to change their attitude just like that. Now, adults are a little more sophisticated. We need a little more than donuts or chocolate or whatever it is that you love to eat when you're in a down mood, right? But God says that if we think about and dwell on and obsess over the things of heaven, the things that God wants, His righteousness, His peace, His joy, His salvation, if we think about those things, if we're filling our mind with those things, it's going to change our attitude, it's going to change our hearts, and it's going to overflow into a life of humility and generosity and reconciliation and enthusiasm and passion and love and all of the patience and gentleness. All of those things are going to happen when we start to look on the bright side. So we're going to kick off this series on Sunday. We're going to bring donuts for everybody. They'll be individually wrapped, so don't worry about your health or safety. And I'm looking forward to seeing you this Sunday. Please be in prayer for us as leaders. We're meeting, all of the deacons, elders, and pastors are meeting Saturday morning to pray for each other, to pray for the church, to pray for you, to pray for our city, to pray for those elected officials that are navigating rough waters right now, and that God would heal our nation, that God would heal the hostility that exists between law enforcement and the African American community, that God would heal those who are suffering because of COVID-19, and that God would bring peace and healing through the church as we live out the gospel every day of our lives. So please keep us in your prayers, and I look forward to seeing you this Sunday.